Hey, it's Pops. I want to talk about a new movie called Yesterday. It's kind of an homage and really brings some appreciation to Beatles music. I think it's got a cool twist. I want to tell you what we like, what we don't like about it. Stay tuned. All right, hey, this is Brandon. This is Pops on Pop Culture. I break down all sorts of things, and today I'm going to talk about another new movie. This one's called Yesterday. Yesterday is a really cool twist brought to you by screenwriter Richard Curtis, director Danny Boyle, who is one of the most acclaimed directors that's come out of the UK. So before I get to that, let me tell you, if it's just your first video or you're not really new to the channel, we break down all sorts of different things pop culture. This is another movie review, and if you like what you're hearing, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share, help us grow the channel and bring more videos like this one. Okay, so Himesh Patel stars as Jack, this unsuccessful musician, and his love interest is played by Lily James, and this sort of like bizarre circumstances that put Jack on a completely unexpected path and take the audience on this really, really interesting ride. So if you've seen his biggest supporter, biggest fan, she drives him around, and Jack's just not got an audience. He's ready to quit. He's ready to roll it up and say no more. And we see all this play out in the trailers, and we see that they're gone. They're basically somehow, some way, the Beatles have been erased. So Jack becomes a successful songwriter rather quickly, and he meets Ed Sheeran, who sees a video on YouTube of something that he did and just thinks his music's amazing, invites him to come out on tour, and he ends up in Russia on tour with him. That breaks out yet another song for him in YouTube videos, and that's where he meets a new agent, and the agent wants to take him to Los Angeles, said, you're going to be a star, right? So Ed's agent, they end up in like a songwriting duel and all of that, and it kind of sets up his explosion into the Los Angeles scene where he's going to be this mega star. So Jack's faced with the reality of this new fame and leaving his world behind. He's got to leave his parents behind, leave his love behind. The girl that he's never really opened his heart up to, she's been following him around for years and years and years, his biggest fan, and yet he's never really opened up how he really feels about her. And Jack's faced with that reality and goes to Los Angeles. He's going to become this mega star, riding the wave and the coattail of pretending that these Beatles classics are his actual creations. And he even tries to infuse one of his own songs, and he's reminded that he just doesn't have it. He doesn't have the toolkit to make it on his own. And it's an interesting journey. It really, really is. Richard Curtis does great work. So if you've seen About Time, it's a film that I highly recommend. Very, very good. This is a romantic comedy. It's become predictable at points, but it's also interesting as Jack kind of unearths a world where different things besides just the Beatles don't exist. We get a few of those things, and in the spoilers, we'll talk more about those in details. The film is a good journey. It's a fun ride. If you're a Beatles fan, I think you'll like it a little bit more. If you like romantic comedies, you'll like it a little bit more. Overall, I give the film a 6. It is kind of the in-between where it kind of just falls short in enough areas that you can't give it a better rating, and it should be an 8. So I think in the spoilers, I'll get into more of why the film should have been more successful than it is. And I'm actually going to put a link in the description. I'm going to do another video following this one where I want to talk about how Yesterday should have ended. There's a whole bunch of things I thought the film was going towards would have made the film great. So there's this great cameo / surprise in the film that takes the film to a different level and raises new questions for Jack and the audience, and yet it kind of falls a little bit short. So I'm going to give the film a 6. I'm going to recommend the film, but I'm not going to highly recommend the film. So stay tuned if you want to get into some of the spoilers and check out Yesterday for yourself. Tell me what you think in the comments and let me know where you think I'm right or where I'm wrong. Okay, so if you're with me, I assume you want to hang around for some of the spoilers. So I've talked a little bit about Jack, and Himesh Patel does a good job performing these songs. It's a little weird seeing some of the songs play out. Like, I don't think we're really supposed to believe that in 2019 the lyrics alone will propel the Beatles into greatness, and what makes the Beatles great is kind of really, really missed in the film. Like, that's the entire premise of the film, is for Danny Boyle and Richard Curtis to sort of bring appreciation of Beatles music to a new generation and new kids. And I think that for many folks that have big Beatles fan growing up Beatlemania, it spawned an entire music transformation, right? And the British invasion is entirely rooted on the music industry finding other artists, bringing that talent into the music scene, obviously coming into American culture and basically becoming a phenomenon. And that's all totally lost. Like, there is a phenomenon element to Jack, and he becomes this new sensation, and the social media exploration and how that's different. But I think in the 1960s, man, the Beatles were this boy band. It was this boy band explosion, right? We had gone through the Elvis era, We've seen what rock star is. We've seen like what the cult is of a musician. And here with the Beatles, we see 4 different guys. We see different folks that bring different things to the music scene, with John and Paul in particular becoming these legends and these iconic figures in completely different ways. And the film kind of navigates around that, but it never really hits the marks for me because Jack is not a Beatle. He's just not the same. Okay, so let me get to some of the other spoilers in the film. And that the biggest one, of course, is that the Beatles is not the only thing missing, right? We learn in the film there's other things that are gone, like Coca-Cola. We learn there's no such thing as cigarettes. And there's kind of a funny jab at the band Oasis. And if you're not familiar with Oasis, they're kind of dogged all the time, basically just being a rip-off band of the Beatles, and they're gone. So it's a little weird to see that kind of play out, because we see Coldplay, the Killers, they're mentioned, and it's kind of hard to believe music would continue down the road it is without the Beatles. They transformed music for literally over a decade, and it's just a little hard to kind of follow that logic where they kind of want us to skip over that and go with them. Also, they are not trying to make a connection, though, between like cigarettes and Beatles or Coca-Cola and the Beatles. That's not relevant, but it is something that kind of comes and goes in the film. There's no explanation for things. It's kind of got a science fiction element here, like go along for the ride, folks. That's what happens. And there are plenty of other movies that do that kind of thing, and I was totally okay with that. All right, so the biggest spoiler in the film is a cameo where Jack figures out that other people know that he's stealing the music from the Beatles, because they, for some reason, which we don't get an explanation on, they too remember the Beatles and some of the things that are missing, and they confront him, and he thinks they're going to out him and like turn him into the police or something like that, right? And ruin him. And in fact, they're actually there to like love on him, tell him how great it is that the Beatles music is getting out into the world, and they correct him on some of the mistakes he's making with the lyrics and changing names, that kind of thing. And then they give him this piece of paper, and the piece of paper has the address to what we learn is John Lennon's house. Right? So John Lennon's still alive because he didn't become a Beatle. So he didn't become a Beatle, he didn't get assassinated, and Jack sits down with John Lennon. So some aspects of this work, some things don't. We don't really learn about the other Beatles. We don't see them show up or anything like that, because I know there were a lot of rumors. And I think the film really missed a big opportunity. And as I said, there's going to be another video I'm going to do about how the film should have ended. But I thought it was great. I mean, obviously, this was probably one of the emotional, stirring moments in the film where, man, we're looking at like, you know, almost 78-year-old, 80-year-old, almost 80 years old John Lennon, and it was a little rough, man. It was pretty cool. So Robert Carlyle, by the way, is the actor. You might know him from Once Upon a Time, and he plays Rumpelstiltskin, and he was a villain in a James Bond movie and that kind of thing. Robert Carlyle is a great actor and does great work. And he's John Lennon, looks just like John Lennon would look in a lot of our minds, pulled that off. And of course, Jack finds heart, right? Because John Lennon is saying, you know, I'm happy, and I'm happy just being this guy. That matters more. Being honest with yourself, being true to yourself matters more. And hence, so that sparks Jack to like give the music back to the whole world and kind of go back to the girl and, you know, just do the right thing in that regard. But it also just kind of creates another whole stir or mess. It kind of makes the film a little long there too, where it gets awkward of him, how he's going to get to her in time and all of this chase stuff, which, you know, some of it works, some of it doesn't. He kind of manufactures a big event at the stadium show, and elements of that work. Some other stuff is, you know, like I said, there's some great musical parts and all of that, yet there's no like real repetition of some of the songs. They're kind of like they come and go quickly, only pieces of them are played. It does at least make allusion to the fact that Jack messes them up from time to time, so that at least was giving Himesh Patel a free pass on some of it, because at times it really doesn't work, but overall I think it does. And it was a fun movie, and I think it does have some value if it does bring some interest to Beatlemania back into this generation. For me personally, I'm a Beatles nut. My mom was a huge Beatles person, so for me it was an easy sell, and I really loved that part of it. I want this movie to be an 8. It's just not. It's a 6 at best, and if you're not into certain things, it kind of slides down a little bit further. It might eke up to a 7 if you kind of let some of the stuff slide, but overall I think a 6 is a pretty fair number. 3 out of 5 if you're doing a 5-star system, we're going to call it a 6. So my reviewer agreed with me too. She went and saw it. A lot of the similar stuff we had as far as pros and cons, so I gave Debbie a lot of credit for that. And if you like what you're seeing, feel free to partner with us. Correct me if you like the movie. Tell me what you like or didn't like, and let me know. And hit that like or subscribe button like I asked you to do, and help me out, because we're really just trying to grow the channel, reach more folks, and even get more subscribers and that kind of thing, because YouTube, then will give us even better perks and things like that. But we appreciate your time. And, for me, I would check out Yesterday, if not now in the theaters, soon, because it was streaming or whatever. Because I thought overall it was an entertaining film. It's a great way to spend an hour and a half or so, and it's a great date movie. So check it out for yourself. And I'm Pops, and that's what I think.